with us today. Thank you so much for your attendance and welcome to Moving Communities. Moving Communities is about the understanding of the public leisure's contribution to active communities, and it's based on the monitoring and evaluation of the National Leisure Recovery Fund. Okay, if you could give us the next slide, please. So today's session, just doing a bit of housekeeping. We are recording and we will be able to provide a copy of the recording for anybody who wishes to see it. We will be putting it on our website, which is nearly ready for publishing. Please, if you wish, keep your cameras on. We're more than happy to see you, but your microphone's muted. And if you'd like to use the chat box for any questions as we go through, I'll be collating those and pointing them towards the speakers that we have today. And we'll also be recording those as part of our frequently asked questions. In a moment, we're going to hear from Kevin Mills and Emma Bernstein from Sport England. And then after that will be Mike Hill from LeisureNet, Utku from 4Global, and Caroline Constantine from Right Directions. So I'm now passing over control of the presentation to Utku and to Kevin to do a welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Mills. I'm the Director of Capital Investment at Sport England. Just do a short introduction on this and the reason why we're investing in Moving Communities. The impact of COVID-19 on public sector leisure has further highlighted the importance of being able to evidence the value of the service to communities in terms of health, social value and economic impact. This was essential in making the case to government for financial support for the sector, but it has highlighted that the local and national data available currently is not of the quality and depth we need. So, separate to the National Leisure Recovery Fund monitoring and evaluation requirements, Sport England will invest funding into Moving Communities, which will create a step change for the sector in terms of data and insight, which will create both locally and nationally the evidence base needed to demonstrate the value of public leisure and help us all make the case for support of this service. Why now? Well, we have the opportunity to secure the funds to make it happen, and sometimes you just have to grab that opportunity. Okay, Lucy, do you want to just mute your mic?
Sorry, yeah.
We are very conscious of the stress and pressure the sector is under, so we have worked hard to reduce the burden on local authorities and operators and try to develop an automated system to take the brunt of the work. We have undertaken workshops and consulted with key stakeholders, including UK Active, Community Leisure UK, Okay, somebody muted me there, I'm afraid, so I'll go back slightly on that. So we have undertaken workshops and consulted with key stakeholders, including UK Active, Community Leisure UK and LGA. All are supportive of the need for this and have reinforced the point about the strain the sector is under. It's a fine balance, but we believe this work will be essential in helping to meet the challenges to come. We realise not everyone is at the same starting point, and we are very mindful of that. And the team will explain now the detail of the Moving Communities project and how we will work with you to deliver it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Emma Bernstein. I also work at Sport England, and alongside Kevin have been supporting the rollout of the National Leisure Recovery Fund, but also had an eye very much on the Moving Communities platform in line with what Kevin's just described there. I wanted just to introduce to you today the team that we have working on the platform itself and the service that we're going to talk you through today. So if you're able to just move on to the next screen. You'll see here some familiar logos, I'm sure, and names that you might associate with the National Benchmarking Service and Quest as a product. That team we are working with to roll out the Moving Communities platform. It's being led by LeisureNet Solutions Limited. Mike and Dave are both here with us today and obviously have a role around customer insight, business intelligence, and particularly in terms of what we'll speak to you today, the customer service, the customer survey that we'll be focusing on with LeisureNet. Also, we're joined with Utku from 4Global is also joining us. and he will talk us through the Data Hub, the largest repository for sport and physical activity data in the UK, and a focus that we have been working on through the Moving Communities Fund to capture the information that we believe will help us explain the value of the sector going forward. Also joined by Lisa Forsyth from Max Associates. They're a consultancy working around leisure management contract procurement, and very much eyes and ears on the ground for us in terms of rolling out the project and in terms of the data that will be fed back, and hopefully useful on a very local level in terms of reporting your contract and the value that it brings to your communities. We also have Sheffield Hallam University bringing the academic rigour to the process, and having led some of the work around our social value analysis, are able to translate a lot of the data that will be input into the platform into that social value language that will be able to talk about the value our sector brings, particularly reporting back to wider partners on a national level. And finally, we've got Right Directions, again, familiar to you through the Quest product, providing that element of health and safety and quality management. I'm going to hand over now to Uktu, who will just talk you through an overview of the system itself, and then we'll go into some of the more detail around the data entry and the dashboards.
Thank you very much, Emma. So we'll start with some theoretical slides, but then we will move into the live platform so you can get the full view from the platform as well. So in terms of the overview, so how the whole Moving Communities platform works, obviously at the center of this, when you look at the diagram, we would read it from bottom to top. So there are a number of data sources feeding in data into the Moving Communities system. The idea here is to make sure that local authorities, operators get access to a single source of truth from all the different parts of the leisure center operations, leisure services, from the different data points. So the key data sets that are feeding data into the platform are in 4 different ways. First of them is the participation data. Then we have income and expenditure data. We have customer experience data and facility data. Some of these data sets you would be familiar with from the recovery fund application process, especially on the participation data and finance data. But also in this stage of the service, we will be adding additional data sets to this initial picture. The whole idea here is to make this process as efficient and as simple as possible for operators and local authorities to get the data into the platform and then to have access some of the key insights that are coming out of it. With that thinking, we have automated the whole process for yourself. So on the participation data side, we are using DataOps integration with the different leisure management systems and other participation data sources. So for any operator that is integrated with the Data Hub in the across the whole of England, all of this participation data will be coming through the automated route into the Moving Communities platform. For the ones that are not integrated yet, then there will be options to upload their data via some standardized templates which you have used before during your fund application process. The finance data would be coming from the different financial systems of the operators again. Some of those data sets are also started to be automated, but also this will be via the standardized templates you used before. Customer experience data will come from the customer experience surveys that will be run quarterly with the users of the leisure centers. So this will feed in all the feedback data, satisfaction, and usage information from the individual users that visit the facility. And finally, we will have the Quest assessments, the Quest Prime service, providing the service delivery data into the platform as well. So all of that data will be collected in the database, and from this database, we will be providing a set of Kpi dashboards to provide you with key insights from these different parts of the leisure services across the local authority. So these 6 Kpi dashboards, which we will go later in further detail, are listed in the red area on top of the screen. Then we will have a number of user groups accessing the platform. So the primary user group on the left-hand side will be Sport England and LGA, Community Leisure UK type of sector organizations, accessing it from getting a national view perspective to understand the impact that the fund is generating, but also how as a sector we are making an impact in people's lives. Then we will have yourselves, local authorities, accessing the platform from your local authority perspective and having sight of your own local authority and leisure centers in the local authority performance. And then you can also benchmark it with the national and relevant averages from the national data sets. And then operators will be accessing the platform to get a sight of their own operator views and also the leisure center views. The data security is at the top of the platform's obviously working principles. So at no point any operator or any local authority can have access to another local authority or operator's individual sites data, but they all benefit from the benchmarks that are provided through the aggregated data in the platform. So this is the working principle of the moving communities, but let's dig a little bit further into the output. So what will you get as a local authority from this platform? So we have structured 6 different KPI dashboards within the platform that we will show you in the next hour. So these 6 KPI dashboards are visits, are all about the visits, so showing you the total number of visits and how it breaks down into different activity areas, and also how the throughput recovery happens after the reopening stage. Then it's about participants, so understanding who visits the facilities, different demographic segments, and also target segments, whether it is the elderly people or people coming from higher deprivation areas, so answering the who question. Then we have sight of financial data. So here we have the KPIs about the recovery of the cost and income in the facility, and also the breakdowns into the key activity areas. And these 3 are the way we call them are more hard KPIs. Then we have the soft KPIs, which is the next 3 KPI dashboards we have in the platform, which is about social value, customer experience, and service quality. So in terms of the social value, some of you might be already familiar with, but also for the ones who are new to the concept, we are linking the participation data with the research conducted by Sheffield Hallam University in order to quantify the benefits of physical activity in health, crime, education, and subjective well-being areas. So to evidence the impact that our leisure centers are generating on people's lives in different parts of their lives. Then we have customer experience data, which is primarily focusing on the confidence people feel to return to the facility, the net promoter score, and also feedback on the cleanliness of the facilities from their initial experiences after they visit the facility. Then we have the service delivery KPIs, which is all about demonstrating how our centers are ready to welcome our customers back in a controlled environment. So these 6 KPI dashboards are aimed at giving you a full view of the leisure delivery in your local authority, and also how it benchmarks with the rest of the sector. Now, I will stop sharing the presentation and jump onto the platform, and we'll share with you how the platform will bring all these benefits to life. So I hope everybody can still see my screen. Perfect. So in terms of the website, first of all, as Dave mentioned, we are currently working on finalizing the Moving Communities website, which will give you all the information together with FAQs and partners information on it. That will also link to the sign-in page of the platform from the data app sign-in page. So in terms of the logging into the platform, and I'll come one step outside of this. So you will have a login page where you can enter your credentials that will be sent to you in the next week as of start of April. So each of you can type in your user credentials and log into the platform. So I'll just log in as our demo platform, as our demo user from a local authority. And I will land to my profile page. So each of these user accounts will be specific to your individual users. So even if you have multiple people from a local authority logging into the platform, each will have their own logins. So you can actually use the platform with your own preferences and access details. When you land into the platform, into the data up landing page, you have the moving communities screen that will direct you into the platform. But before that, I'd like to show you another functionality of the platform in here. Because Moving Communities platform is all integrated with the Active Places database of Sport England, it provides you with a full view of the supply data in your local authority. So the first thing you can do on the platform on the left-hand side is by clicking to operational view, you can see the full facility suite, so which facilities you have in your local authority. So you can actually see how many sports halls, how many swimming pools, and how many studios exist in your local authority. On the right-hand side, you can see the different sites that exist in your local authority. So for my demo account, I have set up 2 leisure centers in here. And when I click details, it also takes me to the individual leisure centers passport page where I can identify the location of my site and also some basic information about latitude, longitude of my site, and also the facility mix within my facility, within my leisure centers. So it can be the swimming pools I have, the health and fitness suites, the studio and squash courts, and all of your Active Places data is also available in here for you to view and understand. So once you have this view, I'm going back to my profile page and I'm directing myself into the Moving Communities platform. So Moving Communities platform opens up with your account details where you can also add your local authority logo in here. You can update your passwords and everything. And then the first thing you can do is you can go to user list. And on the user list, what it shows you is if you have more than one user from your local authority, which you are more than welcome to do so, you can see all the different users from your own local authority in a list. What it allows you is also to track the usage of the platform from this screen. So you can actually see when they last logged in, when they last used the platform. So from a platform usage perspective, it allows you to track the usage of the platform in an ongoing way. Then the platform has 3 main sections on top of this, which is about data entry, dashboards, and the map. We will go through each of these in detail now. So first of all, I go to the list section under the data entry, because as we discussed during the presentation phase, this is first of all getting all the data from the platform, from the sector into the platform. So what I see in here are the 2 leisure centers that exist in my local authority. If you have more, obviously you will see the full list. You will see their operator details, their management type details, and the site names. And you can also see whether the site is integrated with the data hub, which means you don't need to do any data input for the participation data, but it is all automated for you. And then you can also see whether this leisure center is part of the leisure recovery fund or not. I've seen some questions in the chat. So yes, there are some also in-house local authorities that will have access to the platform, which might not be part of the recovery fund, but they will still have access to the full platform and its functionality in terms of benchmarking and other reasons. So in terms of the data that gets into the platform, there are 3 buttons that you can see next to each leisure center. I'll start with the participation data. So by clicking this button, it will take you to the participation data page in the platform. So what it shows you in here, the ones who have been familiar with the recovery fund application process will recognize this template. It's the same template used in there. You have 7 different areas, activity areas within your leisure centers, from fitness to group workout to sports hall and to swimming activities. And there is data in the platform from April 2019 until end of November 2020, which has been the fund application period. So in my screen, currently, I can see all the figures from March to February 2020 to 21. By clicking the columns button, I can add more months into my view as well, going back until April 2019. All the data you see on my screen is coming directly from the data hub through the integration established with the leisure management system of this operator. And because they are on data hub, obviously this local authority doesn't need to do anything in terms of getting the data into the platform. So as the months pass by and as the centers are open, new data sets will automatically appear in the platform, and you won't need to enter any information in here. Both local authorities and operators will have access to this section, so you will be able to see the same information as your operator in order to check those sites' participation data. Obviously, there might be occasions where the information displayed here, your operator or yourself might have questions about the accuracy of the data, or you might question the breakdown of the data sets. So just to reiterate, these groupings and this standardization of the data is all happening in the data hub through the automated systems and the sector data being matched to the individual operator data sets. So still, if there are any questions about the accuracy of the data or any other questions about your data sets, you will be able to contact us directly so we can work with your operator and your leisure management system. We have done a lot of data checks in the past 3 to 4 months together with the operators and leisure management systems. So all of those data sets have been reflected, or data corrections have been reflected into the platform. And we are continuously working with the operators to review this data and make sure it is correct. But again, these are technology integrations. So at any point, if there are any issues, we can always address them very efficiently with the technology providers of the operators. So if your leisure management system is not integrated with the data hub, then you will be able to download standardized templates and upload those directly into the system as well, which I will show in the finance section, not to repeat too much the same information in there. So this is about participation data. Now I will go to the second part of it and the finance data section and click the Edit Finance button. Here, we have already uploaded all the information that has come to the system from the operators in the previous stages. It's very important to mention that this information needs to be at the site level for us to be able to provide accurate KPIs for you in the detailed way. So all of the data sets, both participation and finance going forward, will be provided at the leisure center level. The platform has an option to download a template on top of this page. So when you download the template, you have an Excel template where you can just enter your numbers and upload that back into the platform. So that's one of the ways to enter the information in. Like in the participation data, there are some operators who are already integrated with their finance system into the platform as well. So in that case, again, you don't need to do anything. All of this data will appear automatically. But if you need to update any information, then you can come here and use this standardized template, or alternatively, at the end of each month, you can enter your information directly from the platform by entering the correct figures in here. So there are multiple ways to enter the information into the platform. In terms of older than 2019 data, you can, at the moment, the platform goes back up until the start of 2019, but for local authorities who would like to use the platform for additional data analysis purposes for the past dates, we can always look at the possibility of that for the requested local authorities. But currently, the platform period is from start of 2019 until current date, and it will continue to do so in the coming months. So we have here the staffing, income, expenditure items that you can upload into the platform. All of these tables are exportable, so at any point, if you need to export them into Excel or different routes, you can use the platform buttons for that, and you can export the information, or you can edit the information on the line. So if I select a single line in here and click the edit button, it allows me to edit the information on all of the swimming lessons in this scenario. So that's the second way of, so after participation, this is the second way of getting data into the platform. So now going back to my list, these are the two data sets that you are familiar with from the recovery fund as well. But as mentioned in the presentation stage, we have some additional data sets that are feeding data, that will be feeding data into the platform. One of which is about customer experiences. So not just about how many people visit your facilities, but how is their experiences, initial experiences, how is their confidence? And in that regard, I will now pass to Michael, who will give you information about getting this customer experience data into the platform.
Thank you, Ku. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I'm going to talk you through the customer experience survey in a second, but just a little bit of background to start off with. We believe that this is going to be by far the largest customer experience survey ever carried out of its kind. We're expecting a minimum of 50,000 sample, and potentially we could get up about 75,000, possibly even 100,000. So it's going to give us well, I was going to say once in a lifetime, but we're hoping to run this quarterly, so it won't be a once in a lifetime, but it'll be the first time that we've had such a good large sample to give us a great national picture, but also allow you to have a look at your customer experience from several different lenses in your own site, because it's going to be done on a site-by-site basis as your local authority or contract as a whole, and then comparing that with the national picture. In terms of timelines, our plan at the moment is to run the first survey approximately 3 weeks after sites have opened. So we're looking at the first or second week of May, and very shortly we'll be sending out further details about how that survey is going to be carried out and what you need to do. In essence, it's an online survey, and we'll be asking you to work with your operator or your contractor, or if you're in-house, to do it yourself, and send out that email invite using some standardized words that we're going to send to you, and with a link, a site-specific link, and to email that out to pretty much most customers or members that have come and revisited your site within those first 3 weeks. Now, the survey itself, I don't know if you can go back and open up, thanks, Sudku. The survey itself has taken several months to pull together. We've had some really good input, some expert research people from Sport England, LeisureNet, and also speaking to people on the ground and finding out what's the key information that we want to find out. So I'm just going to talk you briefly through this, because I think this is a really exciting and important part of moving communities over the forthcoming months. So to start off with, we've got a standardized age question. The survey will only be open 16 years and over, and we also want to establish whether this is the first time that they've visited your centre in this year since lockdown finished. We're then going to move on to some activity questions. Now, some of these are really just more for cross-tabbing, not to establish how many people are playing badminton out of everyone coming in, because obviously you'll have more accurate ways of measuring that. But what it does allow us to do is, for example, compare the Net Promoter Scores of people that are doing tennis compared to those people that are coming in to use the fitness and gym. We've also got our standardized transport mode question in there as well. Some of these questions are carryovers from the standardized MBS questionnaire, but we've also got some new ones in there as well. So the next section is all around customer experience. We've got 4 or 5 key questions in here. Because this is an online questionnaire, and because it's going to be down to people to complete it, to self-completion, there's not going to be a trained interviewer standing there with them in the centre. We've tried to keep it as short and succinct as possible. So we've really drilled down into what we think are the key components of the customer experience when your customers start coming back to your centre. So first of all, we've got 2 cleanliness related questions there, which are, again, are asked in the standardized format that we've been using in MBS for 15, 20 years. So it allows us to carry on with some of the benchmarking and to compare perhaps pre-COVID satisfaction with cleanliness compared with what people are doing now. We've only focused on the two key areas. We know from previous research that we've carried out over the last year that this is the number one priority in terms of changing the cleanliness of the changing areas, cleanliness of the activity areas. We've then got in a new question which we've developed over this last year, which is called the customer confidence indicator. And it's, could you just go up a little bit, Sarah? Thank you. During your last visit to the centre, how confident or not did you feel in the COVID-19 related protocols in place? And we asked people to answer this on a scale of 0 to 10, when 0 is not at all confident and 10 is very confident. So every site that carries out the survey will get that confidence indicator score. It'll be expressed as a percentage from -100% to +100%. Exactly the same as hopefully you're used to seeing Net Promoter Score now. We've then got the overall customer satisfaction question. We think that's really important. And then finally, we've got NPS there as well. How likely would you be to recommend this centre on a scale to 0 to 10? Thanks, Oku. Next section is around the impact of the centre. So first of all, we've got 3 questions around that single activity period of 30 minutes or more, and how many days each week are they achieving that 30 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity. And we're asking this 3 times. So what we can do for the first time really is establish how much of people's physical activity, how much they do in total, but then what's the split between what they're doing in-house in the leisure centre and what they're doing outside of the centre, perhaps independently, because we know that all these patterns are bound to have changed over the last 12 months. Thanks, Oku. And the final section is around the future. Sorry, just to finish off the impact bit, we've got 4 new questions there which are asking people to express whether they strongly agree or strongly disagree. I think there's going to be some really valuable information coming out of this. So, for example, I didn't miss exercising at the centre when it was required to close during the 2021 lockdown phase. People can strongly agree to strongly disagree. I exercise more intensely when I'm doing an activity in an informal setting compared to when I'm doing it in a leisure centre. I prefer exercising at a leisure centre to exercising in a more informal setting. And the staff at the leisure centre provide me with the guidance I need to be active. One of the key things that we found, particularly women and older people in the research we carried out while centres were closed, was that women and older people were missing much more the guidance and motivation that leisure centre staff compared to younger audiences and to males. So we think that's going to be a really interesting question. And then finally, we've got a futures section. So thinking about the future, again, on this scale, strongly agree to disagree. In the next 6 months, I intend to exercise at least once a week at the leisure centre. The leisure centre does not play a significant role in the lifestyle I want to live. I intend to exercise more often at a leisure centre than more informal. I intend to exercise at the leisure centre more often than I did last week. So we're trying to anticipate what future activity patterns are likely to be in your customers. And we've then got quite an extensive demographic section, which allows us to not only identify, obviously, and cross-tab by gender, but we're asking for postcode, so we can do some analysis by the IMD 1 to 10 scale, and also some other standard social demographic questions, which will allow us to identify particular groups of people furthermore. And obviously the disability section questions is in there, as well as the equality and diversity questions as well. I think that's it, Utku, on the questionnaire.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I mean, this is the 3rd part of the data entry point that we have seen in the list section. And the final part, which is not via the platform, is where we have the Quest assessments that we discussed earlier, Quest Prime assessments that is delivered by the Right Directions team and also delivers valuable insight into the platform, which you will see in the analysis section. But this integration is in the background of the platform, so you don't need to do anything within it. Once those assessments and mystery visits are conducted, all of this data will automatically feed into the analysis sections as well. I'll make a quick pause here and pass it to Dave and Emma to make sure that we are getting a lot of questions, which are all valuable questions. So before we move to the dashboard section, it might be valuable to pick up some of those questions from the channel, and then we'll continue with the analysis screens and the map section. So Dave, can I pass to you to pick up a couple of questions from the chat?
Absolutely, thank you, Akku. There's quite a few in here, Mike, in relation to what you've just done around the survey, which I think might be worth starting with. So there's some stuff around survey fatigue and duplication, and also about requests. So can you see those, Mike? Would you like to answer them from the chat box?
Let me just see if I can get it up, Dave.
Okay, let me ask you the first one then.
Okay.
So is there a minimum percentage return set for each centre for the survey?
The answer to that is no. What we're trying to do, we're anticipating something like a 10 to 15% response rate. We're giving you plenty of notice when this survey is going to be carried out, because we're aware that you may be doing your own surveys, or your operators may. So hopefully you'll know it's going to be happening at the beginning of May, and the next one will be happening in July. So hopefully we can avoid too much survey fatigue. Another point is that the surveys may not be answered. The email invites may not be sent out to the same people 3 months and 6 months later, because it's not going to be an individually tracked survey. It's going to be, we're just going to send it out to a sample of people, hopefully quite a large sample of people that you've got you've got email addresses for, and B, they've opted into marketing communications. So we can start off with a nice large sample base of perhaps several thousand people, and we're hoping that we can end up with several hundred. Ideally, if we can get up to 300 or 400 people per site, depending on the size of the site, that would be a really robust sample per site.
Thanks, Mike. And of course, it's not us sending it out, it's sent out via the operator. So one of the questions is, how are we going to make sure that the operator doesn't just choose to send it out to their favorite customer, for example?
That's a question you always ask me, Dave, isn't it, as well? And the answer to that is it's very difficult. I mean, obviously, we hope that you've got a very close working relationship with your operator. There may be ways in which you can check. So for example, number-wise, the eligibility for people that can receive the email is going to be pretty wide. As long as they've visited, as I say, as long as they've opted into marketing, we'd like your operator on your behalf to send it out to pretty much everyone over 16 who's visited at least once in those first 3 weeks. So I think if that number is surprisingly low, because you know how many people have visited, then obviously you could go back and check. But we are hoping that the operators will see the value of getting a really robust and accurate response to these questions, because it's going to be incredibly valuable for them going forward, as well as for the client side.
Thanks, Mike. Two-pronged question here. Effectively, do all National Leisure Recovery Fund funded facilities have to do the questionnaire? And if they're not if an organisation is not part of the National Leisure Recovery Fund, can they do the CE survey, the customer survey?
Yeah, this may be one for Emma to come in at the end, but I can answer the first part. That yes, ourselves in Sport England see the questionnaire as an essential part of the evaluation and monitoring. So I think Sport England would agree that yes, this is that we would expect every site that's benefited from the NLRF to take part in the survey, unless there's a very good excuse for them not to. In terms of sites that aren't covered by the NLRF, then I think that probably merits further discussion. If anyone wants to contact myself and Emma, then we're happy to take those on a case-by-case basis now.
Okay, could you put your email address into the chat box, Mike, so that people can do that?
I will do.
There's a good question here around what about those that are not digitally connected? How can we give the customers the opportunity to complete the survey if they're not don't have a digital method of communicating with us?
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting question. I mean, one of the things that we've discovered over the last 12 months ourselves as LeisureNet, the research and the consultation we've done, is how much the last 12 months has changed the digital habits of all ages. And I think it's fair to say now that older age groups are much more digitally aware, have got email addresses, and are capable, or not capable, are able to complete online surveys, much more so certainly than 5 years ago, and probably more than 1 year ago. But the key, and we've already had some operators saying, can they print paper versions of the survey off and hand them out to customers in site and things like that. And we're really discouraging that, because even though online self-completion, self-selection surveys may have bias, and they do have bias, perhaps towards younger age groups, perhaps towards people more digitally literate, at least if we keep it standardized across all of the sites, the bias is going to remain the same, and therefore your results will be comparable, because every other local authority, every other operator and leisure centre will be doing it in the same way. So we're really keen for everyone to A, stick to email, and B, not try to supplement it with producing paper copies for people that perhaps can't access it. Yes, there is going to be a bias, but the important thing for us is that bias is consistent across everyone that takes part. And sorry, one thing I forgot to mention right at the bottom of that survey, some people may have noticed that we have got a couple of questions in there asking if people would like to take part in a follow-up survey by SMS. So one of the things that we will be doing is trying to track, and this won't happen across every site, it will be a limited number of sites that we'll select and then invite to see if they want to take part. We'll be following up with some very short SMS individual tracking surveys to see what people are doing after 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and we'll be doing that via SMS, which has a much higher response rate than email-based online surveys.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Right, got a question for you, Ku. This is around throughput. Is there any other breakdown or requirements, say age, disability, and postcode, etc.? Do you want to take that one for me, please?
Yes, sure. I've seen Adrian's question. Great question. So obviously, during the fund application process, it was only the breakdowns that were asked about, the main activity breakdowns for the throughput. That was partially due to time restrictions, and also not that we had a lot of local authorities have been working on their data together through the data hub in that process initially. So going forward, through all the integrations, the data sets we are getting include age, postcode, gender, type of demographic information already embedded in your automated data feed from the operator's leisure management system. So when we come to the dashboards, you will be able to see the breakdowns into different demographic segments and other categories as well. In terms of disability and ethnicity, because this data collection is not so strong generally in the country, really, because of both technical reasons and also lack of standardization in this area, we are getting the disability and ethnicity information through the user surveys, through the customer experience surveys to complete this data set. So, I mean, hopefully the question will be self-answered when you look at the future screens that we will go through, but it will have very specific breakdowns into those different categories.
Thanks. Okay, that's really useful. There was a question quite early on that I wanted to refer back to, and it was about the results. Will each centre get the results, or will it only be fed into the data as an aggregated score?
I can pick that up if you want. So in terms of access to the platform, yes, leisure centers and operators will have access to it as well, and they will have it at the site level, their results. So they will have access to the full details of that. And also it will be aggregated at the benchmark level. So for any sector benchmarking or other benchmarking you will see later on, this data will be used as well. But for centers and operators, yes, they will get it at their individual site level.
Brilliant, thank you, Akku. And can I follow up with another one from Jake Betts? It says, do local authorities and leisure operators have access to the same platform to add data for the leisure sites, or is it reliant on the local authority to enter the data independently?
Both of them have access to the same screens that you have seen so far on the data entry side. Hopefully for operators as well, like mentioned for the local authority case, it will be all automated for the participation data, and for finance data, it can be either the operator or the local authority uploading that information at the site level. But yeah, all screens you have seen so far is accessible same way for operators or local authorities to enter the information.
Excellent, thank you. I just want to open some questions up to Emma, please. Emma, we've got a couple of questions on the Quest elements of this, and it's talking about not all sites use the Quest assessment. How is this going to be managed? And also, can previous results from Quest Prime be added to the dashboard?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Interesting question around Quest and how we integrate this. At the moment, we have selected a random sample of local authorities and a site for each local authority to be integrated on the Quest side for this platform. It's an area of work that we want to develop and to see how we can use the Quest results with the other data sets that you've been talked through and the dashboards that we're going to move on to now to see how we can present that holistic view of the centre. So for the moment, it doesn't matter if you're not involved in Quest. It's something that it's sort of a trial run at the moment with, like I say, a sample. But absolutely, it's something that we'll look to work through and hopefully develop with future iterations of the platform. The other question about the previous Quest assessments, I might get to on this one in terms of the integration with the Data Hub platform.
Yeah, I mean, we have that integration. So Quest is fully integrated into the Data Hub, and we are all working together with the Right Directions team on that one. For the specific purposes of the moving communities, it's primarily the Quest Prime that will be conducted as part of this process. But again, the functionality, the integration is in there. So if any past results of the assessments or anything else needs to be passed into the platform, we have the capability to do so, either at individual cases or at the level of the basically a wider opportunity for all users. So the data is all integrated.
Excellent, thanks, Akku. If we can then go back to the dashboards, I'll collate a few more questions so we can have a look at the end at those questions. Thanks, Akku.
Thank you very much, Dave. So, so far we have seen how we get the data into the platform. So now the next section will be all about how do we generate some key insights that will help local authorities and operators to work together and to make better decisions, both on the recovery of the sector, but also on the ongoing performance of the leisure services. So hopefully the next screens you will see will help with some key decision making and performance improvements going forward. So on the dashboards part of the platform, you have the 6 dashboards that we have discussed earlier from participants down. But on top of these 6 dashboards, we have our summary dashboard, which is summarizing the information across the different service areas in your leisure centers. So the 6 different colors you see on my screen represent the 6 different parts of the platform dashboards. So we have the participants, throughput, finance, social value, customer experience, and service delivery as the 6 KPI areas. In each of these areas, what you are seeing is 2 KPIs, or actually 1 KPI for each dashboard, but then with the 2 figures, one for a particular site in the local authority and the second site for the local authority as a whole. I should just emphasize all numbers you are seeing are demo numbers. So if they don't make sense or if they look too low, too high, please just remember, these are just the demo figures that we have entered for the presentation purposes. So the platform allows you to select your preferences in terms of your site versus benchmarking, what you want to benchmark against. So whether it is an individual local authority average, or whether you would like to benchmark against the national scores or any other criteria, which we will come later in the filter section. But for the purposes of this summary dashboard, what you can see are the 6 KPIs in each of these dashboard areas, which are chosen as the most important KPI from that individual dashboard. So it's about total participants, total throughput, subsidy per visit, social value per person, the confidence indicator, and Quest overall results. So over time, as the requirements may change with the recovery of the sector speeding up or different priorities coming up, we are able to change these KPIs depending on the current requirements. Then from each of these dashboard screens, you have the option to go into the individual dashboard and to get a more detailed view of what's happening in that particular area. So the first one, I just clicked in the participants one, takes me to the participants dashboard, where I can see a standard view across all dashboards. On top of the dashboard screen, we have the 4 main KPIs that are selected for this particular KPI dashboard. And within those 4 KPI boxes, you have 2 filters that you are benchmarking against themselves. So again, these are configurable. For the purposes of this demo, I have selected a single site in my local authority compared with my local authority totals. So the 4 KPIs for the participants dashboard are the total participants, female participants, 65 plus, so older adults, and also low sec, meaning the high people coming from higher deprivation areas. So you can see the time frames for each of these KPIs below each KPI. So currently it's showing you the 12 months up until the end of the November 20 period, which is when the funding application period has started. So as more data comes into the platform during the go live process, then you will be able to see the different time frames and also how this data changes as well. Below the 4 KPI boxes, again, a standard view across the platform is the detailed graphs that allows you to interrogate the data further. So for specifically on the participant side, you can see the gender, age group, and deprivation breakdowns. So you can actually see whether your specific site or your local authority average reflects the national averages, or you can see certain differences in the breakdowns of these participants. You can also see the disability and ethnicity breakdown. As mentioned earlier, because these data sets are not as standardized or as much available in the leisure management systems as possible, then these 2 data sets are coming from the user surveys that Mike presented earlier. When I switch between different dashboards, you will follow a very similar structure. So now I'm on the throughput dashboard, on my second dashboard. Here I have again the 4 KPIs on top of my screen, which is about total throughput, month over month change, year over year change, and average visits per month. The 2 different colors on each platform reflects the 2 different filters. So here you can see filter 1 being the site filter, and the second one being the local authority filter. So you can see the total participation figures from the last 12 months compared between the 2 filters. You can also see the specific activity breakdowns. So how many people have been participating, or what was the total throughput for these activities. And also you can see the breakdown of activities between different activity areas. So some insights you can take from the last one is, for example, in the specific leisure center, the proportion of fitness and swimming activities was slightly higher compared to your other local authority averages, whereas your outdoor activities in this center has been slightly below. Again, these are all configurable. I'll show later on how you can update these preferences. The third dashboard is about finance. So we have a different blue on this one as our dashboard color. So here you are actually looking at your income per visit, operating cost per visit, subsidy per visit, and percentage cost recovery as your main KPIs. And again, you can see that broken down by income area, and also expenditure area as well. So this allows you to interrogate the split between your different income and expenditure items. And also you can see the average staff hours by month and compare it to any relevant comparators as well. So far we have seen throughput participation and throughput participants and the finance KPIs. So I'm going through them really quickly, but what you will have built in to the platform will be guidance into each individual dashboard as well. So two things you can do on the dashboards is either click in the I button in terms of seeing the detailed breakdown of that or detailed description of that KPI and how it's calculated. So you can see for income per visit, for example, this is your total annual income divided by total annual visits, and a higher score reflects a better financial effectiveness. So it will give you an overall information about that KPI specifically. And also there is a full interactive guide built into the platform as well, which takes you through step-by-step guidance in here, in addition to all the training videos and everything else that's generated together with the platform. So there is a lot of material that you can read and get familiar with. After we finish the first three KPI dashboards, I'm now moving to the fourth one, which is about the social value. So the concept of social value has been gaining more importance in the past few years, and with the great work conducted by the Sheffield Hallam University in terms of evidencing the impact of physical activity in other areas of our life, we are able now quantify these returns. So what the platform allows you is to show you the monetary returns, whether through cost savings in improved health or additional benefits that are established through increased subjective well-being, increased life satisfaction, increased educational attainment, or reduced crime. So that way, now when you are having conversations about return on investment into sports and physical activity or in your leisure services, you can actually use those figures in order to quantify those outcomes. It's a very obviously research-driven area, and I can imagine there might be a lot of questions raised in here about the calculations, about the methodology used for those calculations. So there is again a lot of material available through Sport England from a national modeling perspective, but also how this national model is applied into the individual leisure center or local authority specifically. So I mean, just to give a little bit more insight in here, in improved health, for example, you can see the specific returns in CHD, stroke, breast cancer, colon cancer, and diabetes type of health conditions by getting people's risk or by reducing the risk of people having one of these cases through getting them active. So again, this is a very important piece of research that's reflected in the monetary terms in the platform as well. So again, the two colors with the two different filters are used in here. I'm now moving to the fifth area, and we'll pass it to Mike in here again, so he can actually present the customer experience dashboard and how the surveys are feeding data into the platform in that.
Thanks, Utku. Yeah, I mean, it follows the same sort of principle as the previous pages, really. So at the top, we've got the 4 KPIs that we've decided are the key indicators for the customer experience. So we've got the 2 cleanliness questions there, and that percentage is the combined percentage of the people that are very satisfied or quite satisfied. So we combine them into a satisfaction score. So in the top left, for example, you've got a site score versus the overall local authority score for cleanliness of activity areas. Same for cleanliness of changing areas. So it's what we call a positivity score. It's the 2 positives added together. Customer indicator score, as I mentioned, will be a percentage. It will be on a scale of -100 to +100, exactly the same as the way that a net promoter score is calculated. So you'll have the site score versus the local authority, and then over on the far right, we'll have the NPS, the net promoter score itself. And then for each question, sorry, not for each question, on this page, we've just got a few additional questions. If you could just scroll down. So we've added about 4 or 5 questions onto this page. All of your response analysis for every single question will be available on a further page. But what we've done here is said, okay, on top of those 4 KPIs at the top, what would be the other interesting information that you want to see on this summary page? So to start off with, at the beginning, we've got the overall satisfaction question in detail. So during your last visit, how satisfied or dissatisfied were you? We've got that very satisfied to very dissatisfied scale. And then over on the right for each question, you've got the actual, you've got it shown in a graphical format. And then we put in some of the impact and future plans questions here, because we think that they're going to be really interesting for you to have a look at. So, for example, on the to what extent do you agree with the following statements? I didn't miss exercising at the leisure centre when I was required to close. You'll be able to see the breakdown there in terms of the people that are not answered, and then from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And exactly the same for those future plans. Question 13, you'll be able to see the detailed breakdown there and the range that people are answering those questions. I think that's it on that page, isn't it, Utkan?
Yep, and as you said, I mean, we have the full breakdown of all questions, but here, not to keep it too crowded on the single page, we are just filtering out the responses in here, but then you are able to export all of them separately. So after the customer experience, we are now moving to the final dashboard in our 6th dashboard diagram, which is about the service delivery. And here I'll pass it to Caroline to present the key performance indicators selected and how we are presenting it in the service delivery section.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Caroline. I am the MD of Right Directions, and we run a Quest on behalf of Sport England and have done for the last nearly 11 years. So what we've done is we've rewritten Quest back last year with a new version called Quest Prime, primarily for the recovery of the sector after and during COVID. So we've got started again, and then we've stopped, and then we got started and we've stopped again, but we're coming back live obviously in April, with lots of centres rejoining. The new Quest Prime scheme is based primarily on operational recovery. It's not about business planning, long-term planning, improvement plans, etc. It's very much being able to demonstrate to you as local authorities and customers that the facilities are ready, safe, clean, good places to be. So it's based on very, very straightforward modules, including cleaning and housekeeping, operational management, which includes things like social distancing and access routes, etc. Managing the team, so the team involvement, they know what they're doing, what to do if they have COVID, etc. Customer journey, programming and community engagement. And it also includes the compliance declaration, which has been in Quest for a long, long time, which is all of the health and safety statutory stuff. So if your organisation fails any of those, we obviously don't put them through the system. They have to pass the health and safety statutory declaration. So what we've done is we've pulled through some significant results from Quest Prime, which sits on the Data Hub dashboard for anybody that's got Quest at the moment or has had Quest. And those modules that we're pulling through are the Quest Prime score, which is the overall score, which is it's not a percentage. It's either satisfactory, good, very good, or excellent. Or I don't think we've had any unsatisfactories, but if you did have unsatisfactory, you obviously wouldn't go on the platform until we got you to pass. We then include the mystery visit score, because a big chunk of our Quest Prime is a mystery visit, which is really significant, because obviously that's done evenings, weekends, when the centre don't know that that mystery visitor is in. And they complete an activity as well. So that's worth about 1/3 of the assessment overall. Then we're pulling out here the cleaning and hygiene module, which is believed to be extremely significant pre-COVID, Quest was very, very good at picking up centres who weren't clean. And I think one of the massive benefits of COVID is that centres are much cleaner now. So we're endeavouring to try and keep the cleaning standards up, because we know it's extremely important to customers, as it always has been. And then we're also pulling through the customer journey scores into the platform. And that's the journey through the building from inception, so from website, from telephone call, whatever it is, through car park, into the building, doing the activity, interaction with the staff, what they've thought of the staff, through out to the other side, and then leaving as well, so phone calls that they've made afterwards, or complaints or comments that they've fed back. So those are all coming through to this element of the service delivery sector, pulling through the best of Quest in the past and into the new Quest Prime assessment. For the centres who've received a National Leisure Fund Recovery Fund payment, there will also be a scored module, but it doesn't affect the overall score on recovery, on the recovery plans, and whether or not centres are doing what they said they were going to do. But that won't be scored and won't be on the dashboard for everybody to see. So Utku, is there anything else you wanted me to mention there? So further on down, you can see that the questions that we've pulled out as being probably the most significant at the moment are primarily on cleaning and hygiene, operational management, managing the team, and customer journey. And you can see those questions that we've pulled out as the ones that we believe massively affect the facilities at the moment and are fundamental to their recovery going forward. So as you can see, again, those are all scored. Each question, when we go in and assess a centre, is scored. The people who are going in doing the assessments are all leisure professionals and work in the industry, or have worked in the industry for a long, long time, and have all been through significant training and listened to an awful lot of training on COVID-19 recovery. So, okay, is there anything else you think I should add on to that?
I think that's great. That's great, Caroline. Thank you very much. And I'm sure there will be a lot of specific questions that will be raised in each of these areas, which we will be happy to pick up later on. But for today, I think Mike and Caroline, thank you very much for great presentations on your parts as well. So, I mean, what I'll try to do, because just conscious of time as well, in the last two sections I will present, I'll make sure to make a reference to the chat box and a couple of questions that was raised in there as well. So hopefully we can answer those as part of that presentation. So what I mentioned to you when I first said we have the 6 dashboards is, yes, we have a number of selected KPIs, but you have quite a big flexibility in terms of how you would like to display your results and what you would like to benchmark against each other. So in that regard, we have a filter section that is linked back to every dashboard in the platform. So in the filter section, the idea of the filter section is you have 2 filters that is linked to every single KPI dashboard. Currently, what I have done in my initial filtering is I've selected my local authority that I have access to. And within my local authority, I can actually select if I want to go to a single leisure center or I would like to see the full local authority view. What I can also do is select the time frame for my analysis as well in the first filter. And I can also update the name of my filter, so this will update everything I see on the different pages. Then I can select what I would like to benchmark myself against. So I can either benchmark myself against my whole local authority, as I have done in here, or I can select a specific leisure center in my local authority and make a comparison, or I can utilize some sector benchmarks. So going back to a couple of questions raised in the channel, for example, Martin has raised the question, can I compare it against other LA averages? So here you have the options of, you can either select national, which will allow you to compare your results against the national averages as a whole from all local authorities. Or you can make it more specific by selecting the management type. So you can compare your averages against commercial management or local authority in-house or trust management type. So all leisure centers in the country that are managed by trust or local authority in-house. Or alternatively, you can make use of CPFA statistical neighbors as your most relevant benchmarks in here. And people who deal with local authority level data might be already familiar with that, the CPFA categorizations of the 15 15 local authorities that are closest to your own local authority. So when you select that option, basically you will get benchmarks using the SIPFA categorization from the average of those 15 local authorities that are closely linked to you. So that is showing the partnership with LGA on that one. So we have worked with the LGA team to embed those statistical neighbors into the platform as well. And like the LGA, we are also working with UK Active in the development of the platform. So they have been a partner in that, and also they are contributing to it as well. So all these different sector organizations, including Community Leisure UK, as you have seen before, are feeding in both their know-how, experience, and their comments to make sure that we are providing the best view to local authorities and operators to make use of this platform. So we got another question from Sharon. There are some local authorities that have more than one operator that are running their centers. Again, this is available in the platform. So currently my local authority is run by a single operator, but if I had been running with 2 operators, then I would be able to select an individual operator within my local authority and just see their sites, or vice versa. So it allows you to do to cover the requirements for more than one operator if it exists within the local authority. Local authorities cannot benchmark themselves against a specific other local authority just from data privileges perspective. It always needs to be at the aggregated level. So these 3 levels are the current available benchmarks, but in the future, with other benchmarks or filters feeding into the platform, we are able to extend the capabilities of this filtering with more options as well. Just before I move to the map, there was one more question, a couple of questions raised about social value calculations, how it's calculated. Just again, a reference point to the Sheffield Hallam University's research in there. So all the academic research that sits on the back of this platform and the methodology is documented and available to you. So we'll make sure that you have access to that both from the platform's website, but also within the platform as well. And for any other sessions that you would like to engage with us, we will be more than happy to walk you through the social value calculations more in detail. So just mindful of time, I would like to cover the final bit of the platform, which is about the map functionality that's built in. So like the dashboards you have seen, all of this data that's coming from the operators are coming with the individual location information, so the postcodes of the leisure center users into the data hub, if they are all integrated. And then what we are able to do is provide you with a location-based intelligence to both display this data, also to identify opportunities and gaps in the leisure services provision. So what you are seeing on my screen are the 2 leisure centers that are in my own local authority. So what I'm able to see is with the local authority boundaries around my facilities, I can see the areas where I'm getting a higher density of members and into my facilities, users into my facilities. And I can also use the filters on the right-hand side to display this information at the ward level. And I can add local authority and ward boundaries to make it more specific to my local authority and leisure center users. So this allows me to identify areas where I have a lower return in terms of the people who participate, so a higher likelihood of inactive people or potentially people that don't use my leisure centers, in order to put targeted interventions in place or to look at further opportunities to extend my leisure offer to bring these people into my facilities. You can also filter it for a specific facility, so you can apply a filter and it will show you the specific facility in here, or switch between different filters. So you can see the green site is the one that I've selected and the unselected site is still in there. So it's likely that some of these people who are not coming into my X facility is coming to this other facility. And also there are a number of data sets that sit on the back of these context layers, which allows you to interrogate the data further. So for example, one thing you can do in here is you can add the deprivation layers on top of your leisure center data, and you can select the top 20% highest deprived areas, which allows you to see all the different areas around your facility that has high deprivation, and you can see from which of these areas you are getting more customers or more users or not. So you can immediately identify areas with less or higher deprivation, but less usage of your facilities. Again, from a targeting perspective or interventions perspective, this can be quite useful information to link to your data set. Obviously the leisure management data is critical in here, so being able to get the data at the postcode level of the individuals. So again, this features, especially with the demand layers around your facility, is only available if the data is being provided through the data hub. So I'll make a quick pause here to make sure we are leaving the last 5 minutes for any further questions or the ones we would like to pick up. So Dave, I'll pass it to you, and hopefully this gives you a nice view of the platform's capabilities so far.
Thanks, Dr. Really useful. One of the questions was just a little bit more detail on social value. How's it calculated? I think it's always a question we get from a lot of people. So if you could just do a 60-second whistle stop on social value, if that's possible, please.
Yes, of course. So it's my favorite subject. Doing it in 60 seconds is the biggest challenge I always have, but I'll do my best. So the whole idea in here is, again, relying back on Sheffield Hallam's research in terms of if someone is active and doing regular physical activity at the WHO standard guidelines, which is 150 minutes per week, what is the reduction in the risk for that person to have certain health conditions? So if we look at diabetes and pick up someone that's 60-year-old female, what is the likelihood of that person having diabetes, and how does that prevalence rate decrease when that person is involved in physical activity regularly? So by calculating that risk reduction and knowing the treatment costs in the country, we are able to assign a cost saving to the health system in the country that is quantifying the social value in the area of health. In other areas, this is not about cost savings, but much more about additional benefits. So there are economical models that are used for subjective well-being, for example, being able to quantify the financial value equivalent of the increase in life satisfaction and happiness for people that are involved in physical activity. And likewise, the increase in success in school or educational attainment if young people are involved in sports, so how their grades are getting higher, and also how they start with a higher salary when they join the workforce. And finally, for young male participants, how their risk of being involved in criminal activity goes down, and what's the direct saving of that to our national system is the criteria in there.
Excellent. Thank you, Akku. What we're going to do is wrap up there because we're running out of time very, very quickly. We just wanted to say at this stage there is an operators session booked for tomorrow at 2 o'clock. If any of your operators want to attend that, my email address is there. Please email me and I will send them an invite. I'll obviously need their contact details so that I can get them the invite. I'd also like to say a big thank you to UK Active. Some of you will know that they created in the past a report called Moving Communities, which basically did some of this element, but we've been able to make it take that data and go further forward with it. So a big thank you to UK Active for allowing us to absorb and repurpose the name of Moving Communities. We will create a frequently asked question based on all of the questions that we have answered and those that we can't, and we will email that out to people together with a recording of this session so that people can revisit, review, and if you need to, ask further questions. So I haven't got anything further to say. Emma, is there anything from you before we close?
Nothing. Thank you to all the speakers for today. Thank you everybody for joining. I have seen Helen's question just pop up, which I think is probably a good place to leave it in terms of the frequency. We are looking to open the platform on the 1st of April. So it will then stay open for the month of April, and ask you to submit the information for December, January, February and March. And then it's a rolling monthly basis from there. So yeah, thank you again to everybody. We will send details, and I think Dave has already popped in the chat the details of the website and LinkedIn and Twitter. So they're useful places to go for updates and information as well.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Take care and enjoy the reopening of our facilities.
Thank you.